What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video from the 10-7 MMA channel. And today's video is again on Arman Tsarukyan. And this is a bit of a continuation of a series. We've done several videos on Arman ever since he had to pull out of his fight against Islam Makhachev back in, I think it was January, February of this year. And just to give you guys a quick recap, what happened was the fight was in LA. It was in January. The fight was in LA. We were super hyped for it. The entire LA crowd was hyped. Everybody couldn't wait to see Arman Tsarukyan go in. January 18th, I believe, is the date now that I'm thinking about it. We couldn't wait to see Arman Tsarukyan rematch Islam Makhachev. Everybody thought Arman Tsarukyan was the one guy that could potentially beat Islam. So we were all very excited. Now, what happened was that fight week, everything seemed fine. And then the night before weigh-in, so around like 2 or 3 in the morning, Arman pulled out. And of course, Renato Moicano was slotted in, and Arman claimed it was a back injury. Dana White addressed this quote-unquote injury at the press conference afterwards and just said, hey, he alluded to the fact that he didn't believe that there was actually an injury and said that he is going to basically said he's not going to be getting the next title shot. Like, he's not going to get slotted in for the next one. He's going to have to work his way back up. Justin then subsequently made a couple videos. This is just to recap the situation. Justin then made a couple videos being like, hey, look at the circumstances. That was not an injury. That was, he was going to miss weight, and he knew he was going to miss weight. And as such, he decided to say that he had an injury so he didn't have to weigh in and potentially fight Islam without the belt being on the line and then never getting a chance again, etc. So that was the best thing he could do, or the best thing he felt he could do at that point once he kind of botched that weight cut. Anyways, so this was the theory that Justin espoused on this channel, and I think it made a lot of sense when he laid down all the facts and broke it down. Weighing In podcast also agrees. You're going to see that in a second, that they believe it was indeed a means by which to avoid missing weight in terms of him pulling out for the alleged injury. But now new information has come to light. So on top of him pulling out of that event, and again, if we assume that that was a correct assertion, that that was indeed due to a weight miss, not an actual injury, what happened is he pulled out in a massive event where there was going to be a huge Armenian population. That we have a huge Armenian community in LA. They were going to be supporting Arman Tsarukyan. He pulled out the minute of. Imagine what that must have cost the UFC. It probably cost them tickets. Maybe not. Maybe it was already sold out. I don't know how that works, because if the main event changes right before, maybe some people are allowed to refund the tickets. I don't know the ins and outs of that, but so I'm sure it hurt pay-per-view buys. I'm sure they had to spend money on replacing the marketing materials, changing the banners. Maybe those are little things, but it was probably a massive, of course, it had to have been a massive headache for the UFC. And then everybody felt like Islam was going to smoke Renato Moicano, as good as he is, but that's what happened. So, now he's trying to dig himself out of a hole and get back into the good graces of the UFC. But now it has come to light. And again, this is these guys saying it. So we don't know if this is 100% true, or at least I'll say I don't know if it's 100% true. But these guys are saying that apparently Arman Tsarukyan was offered a fight against Gamrot. And listen to what happened. This is crazy.
We came across this tonight, was Arman Tsarukyan turning down fights after not making weight, basically not weight, or pulling out of a fight at 2 in the morning, which everyone led to believe that he just couldn't make the weight and it wasn't going to be a title fight. So he didn't want to fight, basically. If it's not going to be for the title against Islam, I may never get back here. I want to fight him for the title. Obviously, Dana was not happy about that. And what do you think this means? Like, his loss is he has a loss to Gamrot. They offered him the Gamrot fight. I believe, you know where the location of that was, George? But I think it was a main event fight, John, saying, hey, this is one of your losses. Get that fight back.
Oh, I know where this fight was. They were asking him to fight.
Yes.
Abu Dhabi.
Okay. So here's my thing. They're giving you a main event fight. I know it's against a guy that you lost to, but his response was, number one, why would I fight down to number 10 and give this guy a gift?
A guy that's been fighting and had.
Okay, so we're going to stop there. They kind of go on. He goes on to say, hey, a lot of these newer fighters aren't cut from the same cloth like we were back in the day. Look, I'm not even going to get into all that because Josh Thompson is a former UFC fighter. I am not. Justin could weigh on this more from the fighter perspective, but I'm going to weigh in on this from the business perspective. As I mentioned, you're coming from this stance where you, as the UFC, as an organization, you were just majorly, massively inconvenienced by this pullout, which likely was allegedly a mismanaged weight cut. Let's just say, and that seems to be the implication from Dana White. Okay, so we have to say, assuming that's true, because we don't know 100%, but let's say assuming that's true. Now the UFC had this massive inconvenience that probably cost them a lot of money as a result, and now they're not sure if they can rely on you, obviously, to be put back into the spotlight on a main event, because that entire card is going to be built around you. So if they're thinking you're pulling out for something other than an absolute must injury where you have to pull out, we see guys fighting with torn labrums like Sean O'Malley. If you're pulling out, not even because of an injury, but because of a piece of your camp that was mismanaged, how can they trust you? So they're giving you an opportunity to come back in to their inner circle, their circle of trust, if you will, and you're turning it down. This is obviously the fight that they would like you to take. Maybe they are penalizing you or punishing you to a certain extent. Maybe they're kind of making you take something that otherwise they would have never offered you. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, just from the business standpoint, if now you've already given us this trouble and then now we're giving you a way back in and you're turning that down, I don't know. I don't know what the UFC is going to do. I'm pretty shocked by this. Now they go on to say, hey, look what happened to Makhachev. He got cut for being difficult to work with. And now we see Makhachev and all these other organizations. We still don't know the full story of what happened with Makhachev, but this seems to be much worse, in my opinion, where you're pulling out of a main event and then you're given an opportunity to come back into the fold, and then you're turning down a fight that the UFC wants you to take to kind of make amends. I don't know. I would be shocked. Not trying to beat up on Arman. I hope he does compete again because he is so talented and is such a force to be reckoned with in the lightweight division. But I'm worried that maybe this move could be very problematic for his future in the UFC. As these guys are alluding to on the Weighing In podcast, he might get cut because of this. Do I think that will happen? I don't have nearly enough information to make that assertion. Maybe he turned it down, and maybe they negotiated and they did get another fight. But just upon hearing this in isolation without knowing much more, I was pretty shocked. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys agree? Because to me, if I were in the position of the UFC brass or the business owner or the board of directors or whatever, I would hear this and I would be really shocked, and I'd be really worried and concerned about putting Arman Tsarukyan in future fights and future events, because now we have this pullout, which is allegedly due to missing weight. That seems to be, once again, the implication. And then on top of that, giving an opportunity, he's not taking it, turning it down, already knowing all the hassle he caused you. That seems to be some red flags there. So I don't know what's going to happen, but let's see. Hopefully that won't be the case. Hopefully it was just a negotiation thing when he's talking about turning it down, and they chose another fight for him that made more sense, and all is good in the lightweight division, because we would really like to see Arman versus Islam at some point if Islam doesn't move up too quickly. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you guys think this is as problematic potentially or as egregious as I do? Or do you disagree? Do you feel like Arman did the absolute right thing? Let me know in the comments. Thank you guys so much for joining. We'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.